Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the topic tonight, some people might find a little bit, it's like, what? It's actually identity versus identifying, or it can be the other way around, identifying versus identity. And it's sort of like, okay, well, what's so interesting with that? What's the big deal with that one? Well, we'll get to that. I promise you it will be interesting. I'm going to tell you a little story about a guy. This is maybe about 3 years ago or going 4 years ago. There was a guy in England. His name was Thomas, real person. And he'd been going through a lot of struggles in his life, and he had got to this point where he was having a lot of problems with relationships, and he was just plagued with anxieties and unhappiness. And he had been taking care of a friend's dog, and he had taken it out for a walk and stuff, and he was checking out the dog, and he was going like, this is not fair. This dog is just like oblivious to all the problems of the world. This dog is just like so happy and everything is kind of just going on nicely for it. Why can't I be like that? If only I was an animal, then maybe I would be free of all my anxieties. So now you're probably starting to twig this idea that if I identify as another species or something or someone else, perhaps my life will become more meaningful and happy. So he actually seriously contemplated on this and considered it and began doing a huge amount of research. And at one point he really thought, if only I could be an elephant. But then doing a bit of study on elephants, he realized that, wow, they experience anxiety, they experience loneliness and loss, and they go through all the same emotions that human beings do. So he's thinking, oh, that one's not going to work very well for me. So he was kind of like getting a bit more focused on a cat or a dog. And he began talking to lots of people and interviewing. He was even interviewing animal psychologists. Believe it or not, they have animal psychologists. And he, and in doing all this research, he came across a Nordic shaman who advised him. And in one newspaper, it kind of wigged me out a little bit for a while, because they said it was a psychologist that advised them that maybe you're more of a goat person. And maybe that's where you're going to find your happiness, which he began to contemplate very, very heavily. Having thought it was a psychologist, as it was reported in the first article that I read, I was thinking, oh my God, that's massive malpractice. But then it turns out it was a Nordic shaman. So he started really thinking about the goat thing. Then he started researching about goats, and how they work and as groups and as individuals, and what's their life like and what's all of the things they go through. And then he starts getting really into thinking, how am I going to actually become a goat so I can have this goat experience? I can take a holiday from my life and live another life that's going to be free of anxiety. And it means I'm going to have to mingle with goats, but then how am I going to do that? I have to be on my hands and knees. He invested a massive amount of time in trying to figure out what it was that he was going to do. And so he started building contraptions to make it so he could walk on all fours. And then he developed these ideas even further and ended up working with one of the leading prosthetic people in England who's well respected. and who developed special prosthetics for him so he could become a quadruped. And so he got this whole outfit together. It included a helmet, because he knew that one of the things goats like to do was butt heads. And he didn't want to be in a situation where he's in full contact head to head with another goat. So he had to have this protective headgear on. And then it was like, how am I going to just live amongst the goats when all they're doing is eating grass and walking around? And he wanted to have that full experience. So they developed this thing that he had strapped on under his shirt so that he himself could go and chew grass, eat it, and chew it up. And knowing that he couldn't digest it, he spat it into this little container receptacle that went into this thing that he was wearing. And then in the evening, when he'd go back, he'd cook it up in a pressure cooker. And that was the only thing that he ate, in a pressure cooked grass. So he could have the full goat experience, because if I could just be the goat, I'll become so happy. So I have a few pictures here, which we'll see if we can zoom in on them, and you'll see it's quite mind-blowing. You can see how the guy went through the whole thing of developing. We've got 3 stages of development of his quadruped apparatus here, and then this is the last one with him in the helmet. And here he is out with the goats. He went to Switzerland, and he was with, some farmer allowed him in amongst all his goat herd and everything, getting up close and personal. I mean, he was fully committed to this transition. He was a trans goat. And it was just like, he's going for it full on, fully committed and fully into it. And when he was later interviewed, he was asked, what he came to realize and what was his experiences. And he was given some, award. And it was just like, I'm just like doing these massive eye rolls. People weren't taking it that seriously. Most people thought it was a bit funny. But he was quite earnest in his quest for happiness and fulfillment and everything. And one reporter asked him, in all honesty, what would happen if you started developing sexual desires towards goats? You started seeing them that way. And he said, well, since I'm endeavoring to live as a goat, that would probably be a good thing. It means I'm really living the role. I'm having the experience. And when I hear that, massive eye rolls again, and I'm going like, what's this person thinking? And of course, we live in a time now when everybody is encouraged to live their dream. Whatever you can dream up. I mean, everybody feels a certain amount of dissatisfaction with life, their life. If you don't, you're probably on drugs the whole time. Life is not that fulfilling. It can't be completely fulfilling. From a spiritual perspective, if we have this understanding that you are an eternal spiritual being, having a temporary material experience, you are in this body for a limited period of time, and it will come to an end, that time, and you will move on, and this body will return from dust to dust, as they say. And that's just the fundamental reality of things. And since you are that eternal spiritual being, no amount of stimulation of the body and the mind which covers us is going to actually fulfill us in the core of our being. It can't. It's impossible. And the need to get a grip on that is really important, because if you don't, you do what Thomas did. You think, oh, I'm so unhappy with my life now, I need to live another kind of life. And that may mean that I identify now as a cool rock star, or I identify as a really hip businessman or something, or I'm going to be the best, YouTube cook, and whip up all the stuff in my kitchen and put it on YouTube. I'm going to become an Instagram fairy or whatever. You just think that by adopting some other kind of identity and being committed to living that, you are going to become happy. I'm sorry, you are not. You are not. It's not even a possibility. Of course, you can have moments of levity and you can feel a certain level of contentment with things. We're not saying that that's not a reality, but to think that the exterior covering is who you are, that is your identity, is the cause of all unhappiness in this world. It lies at the foundation of it. And Thomas is a testament to that reality. So, we've kind of entered this period in time, and because of the growth of materialism, and once again, pure materialism is based on the perception or the idea that the material energy is the only thing. That's the whole thing. You are material. You are that body. You are that mind that you have on it. And it's not true. It's not true. But when you think that, then, and you don't have any, what are going to be the guide rails in terms of how I should live, what my value system should be, what's guiding me? And everybody's just like inventing stuff. And the vast majority of people, without even appreciating it, are being manipulated by political and social philosophies that actually are not founded on real truth, real and eternal truth. And this is like, it's having such an impact on the world. It's like unbelievable. People are having such difficulty even with lockdown. And whereas like 50, 60 years ago, 100 years ago, our great-grandparents and their parents lived lives for the vast majority of people, in a far more austere way. I've lived most of my life in poorer countries where people live. Built a house, native house in Southeast Asia, where I live with my wife, and we would get water from the stream and chop wood, and every morning I've got to pound rice, and winnow it with this woven basket thingy, so that we could eat every day. Living without any electricity, living, in a state of tremendous poverty compared to how, most people in the Western world live. And this used to be the norm. This was the standard. Now we've grown in there's so much wealth now. And people are complaining that they don't have enough. Most people in the West don't actually understand that they are the 1%. The majority of the world lives different kind of lives. And life is fundamentally hard. It is fundamentally difficult. That doesn't mean it has to be unhappy or unpleasant. When a person has a spiritual component that is foundational to their life and guiding their life, then their choices in life, their relationships, how they live, everything, it has a different perspective. It has more meaning. Can be more fulfilling, not completely. Nothing in the material world is going to completely spiritually fulfill us. It can't. But relatively speaking, it's more fulfilling. Now we have, a pampered elite in society, economic elite, who have lost, the guardrails are down, and it's kind of like everybody's freewheeling, and you going off-road big time, and you're exploring new frontiers, including wanting to be a goat or anything else that you can dream up. And everybody will be telling you, oh, yes, you should do that, live your dream. If you want to be the goat, then we'll relate to you as the goat and we'll love you as the goat and everything. And it's just like, don't you understand that when your focus is identifying something that is not you as being you, the eternal spiritual being, you are going to be fundamentally unhappy. And so we have these massive rise in unhappiness and mental illness, like 70% increase in the last 5 or 8 years, something like that. The suicide rates more than doubled. And it's just, these are symptoms. They are proof that we're off track. We're just thinking, I can't even say we're off the reservation anymore. That has all kinds of connotations now. And it's like, I love the idea that we need to be more sensitive and we need to be more careful and thoughtful. But there has to be some reality. There has to be some underpinning of truth to that. And in this case, and related to this topic, if we are going to be lost in the realm of identifying with something that is not us in the hope that that will make us happy and fulfill us, I'm sorry, you're doomed to unhappiness. You're doomed to unhappiness. You will wake up every single day knowing that you're not the goat and having to work really hard to be the goat and to be accepted as the goat. And then you're just faced with that reality. And that you cannot escape that. That's a fundamental truth. You can try to wish it away, but it's not going to work. It's not true. It's not real. I have no issue or problem with people choosing to live different types of lifestyles, to express themselves in different ways, etc., etc. That's all fine. But hey, the undercurrent has to be, the underpinning for your life has to be, I am an eternal spiritual being. This body, this mindset that I have that's associated with this body, this is a temporary material experience. I should not be overly invested in it. That is not in my interest, and it will not bring me fulfillment and happiness. And I should be directing my mind. I should be directing my desires to that which will actually bring me fulfillment and happiness, that will lead to me becoming more compassionate, more caring, more focused on a higher spiritual reality and truth that will guide me in my life. This way I can take care of myself, and it will empower me to be able to help in caring for others, because I will have something real to share. I will be able to actually help people. So this is like a monumentally huge topic, and trying to cover it in such a short period of time doesn't fully do it justice. But I'm hoping that you will hear what I am saying in humility and openness, and consider the reality of it. We need actual guiding principles. We need foundational truth in our life that everything becomes built on. If we try to build our life upon that which is fundamentally untrue, then we will be unhappy, and we will make others unhappy also. So with that, I thank you very much for giving me the time to speak to you on the subject. And this message, this idea has vast ramifications throughout almost everybody's life in so many different ways. And it's really, really important. I have a new friend in Mexico that I've recently been communicating with. He had taken up yoga as a way to deal with stress and anxiety and things, and he had stumbled across some of my talks on the internet and got really quite deeply into it, and now is translating the things I do. And it was very interesting talking to him, because he had come from a background of political activism, communism. His father had been very inspired by Fidel Castro, and he went and worked, with their movement in Cuba. And then he grew up in this environment, where he was highly politically active. But he said he was influenced by one of his professors at college, who taught him to be more of a critical thinker and not just to embrace ideologies without considering the underpinnings. And so that's made him an extremely thoughtful person. I very much like communicating with him, because he grew up in a very atheistic sort of way, with their family and everything. And now he's considering, spiritual truth. And he told me that, it means that he has to reevaluate his whole life and the value system that he has, and everything has been affected by it. And I was quite extremely pleased to hear him say this. It means he's very thoughtful. This messaging that we're sharing actually does require people to look at their life in a very objective way, in a new way, and to consider some of these truths, knowing that if we begin to take them on board, it means my life will change. It will have to change. And it will be a product of thinking deeply about things. But the thing that will bring the most change is this meditation that we do, which I will invite you to join me in now. The chanting of these sacred sounds, these spiritual sounds, these holy names. There is nothing that you will find in your life that will be more powerful and transformational. It will result in new realization. It has the effect of gradually lifting back the veil of illusion that people are in. The illusion that the body is the self, for instance. So I would invite you now to join with me in chanting this Om Hari Om mantra. Thank you very much. very, very much. Haribol.